From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's What's Treading, brought to you by Apex.
Hello and welcome to What's Treading with T.I.R.E Review. My name is David and we've got a really fun one here today. We are speaking with Chris Plaichner. He is Anyline's Chief Product Officer. Let's get to the interview. Chris, thank you so much for your time here today. And I know your time is very limited in this next month or so here because you have the T.I.R.E Summit coming up in Vienna on June 13th. And I know that's not a lot of time. So tell us a little bit about what this is. And that is the T.I.R.E Summit. I'm very, very excited. Anytime I see something new like this pop up, I just want to hear more about it. So kind of give us a 100,000-foot view of what you're expecting from the T.I.R.E Summit.
Yeah, so thanks for having us, and really excited about what's coming up, right? So it's June 13, as you mentioned, it's in Vienna, which is always a great spot to have an event there. And when we talk about T.I.R.E Summit, right, the four letters are for technology, insights, regulations, and engagement. And what's very interesting, what we see is, so number one is I didn't have to organize I didn't all do the work, right? I just have to show up there. But what we see is there is a real demand in this industry because so many things are changing to share and understand what's possible, how other people do it, and how they apply the technology, right? Mm-hmm. And last thing I want to say is, because I'm a big believer in this insight component when it comes to the whole automotive industry or tire industry, right? It changes the game so much when you are able suddenly to do everything with a mobile phone and then be able to have all this information in real time accessible, right? It's just so different than if somebody have to write it down on a piece of paper, you hand it over to somebody. Chances are high that they wrote something down with an error. Chances are high it takes 3 weeks to get it back in your system. And that makes it very hard, right? And if we think about industry in general, when we think about the engagement component, right? Customers expect something different, right? So the Amazonization of the world that we all know. And the same with my car and my tires, right? I don't want to, line up a meeting in 3 weeks, go there, have to wait 20 minutes till I checked in, and then I have to wait another 5 hours, right? So things have to be much more integrated, much more seamless. And the technology that's out there and a lot of the technology that we provide really helps people to change their way. And that obviously also changes how the industry thinks and, what you can do today, what was clearly not possible a couple of years ago. So we are really excited, and we have a great lineup. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And can you give us just a bit of a sneak peek if I'm attending? What can I expect to get out of the T.I.R.E Summit?
Yeah. So number one is we have really a great lineup of experts, right? So Zach Olson, for example, is there. Tread, that's really the end user view, right? He provides an application for the end users to make this thing on their own or do this on their own. We have experts from tire industry research. We have Bridgestone, a lot of other tire providers. We have car producers, OEMs, because again, right, everybody's trying to figure out what's their spot and how they can make technology work integrated in their world. And what we also do is there's a lot of breakout sessions, kind of expert discussions about different topics. As I mentioned before, technology obviously is one. The other thing, as I said before, with the insights is, what does it mean now if I suddenly have in real time every tire that's running around or driving around on the streets in America digitized in the moment I do it, right? Which changes totally what you can do from a predictive maintenance perspective, recall requirements, all the regulations that are coming with it. So one of the things that came up recently is Europe and I think Asia are now preparing some new laws where you have to track the tire wear because of the impact on the environment. So really many components of what's going on in the industry, and having, spots of different topics and discussions where we dive in and also ask ourselves, what does that mean and how can you apply it to your day-to-day work when you go back home to whoever you are, tire producer or a car OEM or somebody like Discount Tire or like Zach, what does it mean and how can I use this to make the life of us better, and meaning us, the worker, and the people in the company, but also for the customers, right? That's also a driving force for us, is to say, how can I democratize technology to be able to give this in the hands of end users and make it so easy that really everybody can do it at the first spot and, can interact with the world and then also trigger actions from there. So it's fun.
So let me dig into that just a little bit. And I know that, a lot of this, you might not have the answers here because a lot of this is coming up and it's going to be part of the conversation during the T.I.R.E Summit. But, you've mentioned integration a lot and, integrating those regulatory requirements as far as, what is expected from like a sustainability kind of aspect. But then also you've got the OEM's point of view, you've got the tire dealer's point of view, and the predictive maintenance, and all of this coming together in possibly one sort of platform on your smartphone. What does that mean for the future of the tire industry?
Absolutely, and I 100% agree. Right, and to your point, if we think about Anyline, and the reason also why we push very hard or drive and be a platinum sponsor for this event is because we are a technology company, right? So I'm not running a shop. I'm not a car OEM. I'm a technology company. And what we provide is making your mobile device, doesn't matter if it's a Samsung or an Apple or a Zebra device or whatever you have, right? To be, let's say, a sensor to collect and scan all the data, right? So to make this concrete, right? If you get to a discount tire today, right? They check you in using our technology. They scan the plate when they walk to the car or the VIN, the vehicle ID number. They scan the sidewall information because you have to make sure that tires are not on recall, right? That's one of the regulations that you have. You do the tread scanning, right? The tire depth scanning. So I can do all these kind of things. And if we think about our role, right, it's about making it as easy as possible for all these different players to integrate our technology. Because what we also see, which is similar to other industries, right? More and more of these tools, workflows, scheduling components that you have are moving from a on-premise, built 15 years ago to a SaaS-based integration. And that also means, right, you either have a mobile app that you have built on your own, or you will use some standard tools, but you have more and more dealer management systems, SaaS-based, where you also want to make it easy to integrate the technology. So it's really kind of a piece in the process, right? And that's always how we think about it. And then it's different for somebody in the shop who checks you in, or somebody who is driving a truck and have to do a pre or an after check when they run a route, right? Versus I hand this or I expose this to the end user to really give them really basic things. So customers use our technology integrated in their website when you want to buy on your online store a tire to scan as an end user the size of your tire. Why is this important? Because 30% of tires that are bought online are the wrong size and they have to send it back. Wow. So if you just think about the dimension of how much costs and how much pain and how much work that is to deal with 30% returns, right? And I can really have this go away by just telling a customer, instead of trying to find the right number and you don't know what you're looking for in this tire, and I just make an image and you're good to go. And I tell you what the right fitting tire is for your car, right? So it's really about getting everybody included. And again, that's why I use the word seamless a lot, because we want to, and it's so important to make it easy for companies to integrate stuff and be able to connect all these different worlds. And again, last thing, I know I push this a lot, but the inside thing is so close to my heart because, again, in the past, you didn't know anything, right? And when you're lucky, you could run a report 6 months later and say, yeah, we had so many tires, right? Now I have all this stuff real time, online, and can use them immediately to engage a worker or tell them, careful, this tire is on recall, do something, right? You can't get your customer back on the street. Or, Mr. Customer, do it from your couch, or in this case, from your garage, right? Just check it out and figure out what's out there, what the cost of new tires are, and who is the best location close to you, right?
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
You know, this kind of scanning technology that you're describing, only a few years ago, I mean, maybe just a handful of years ago, we would be talking about this as an emerging technology that we're excited for. We can't wait to start implementing it. What do you see coming up in the next few years as an emerging technology that you think is going to be a real game changer for this industry?
Good point. So AI really changed the whole game. And I would really say we are very, very early in this journey, right? So I think what we also see at the moment is, so if you think about just our technology, if I talk about Anyline, right? So as I said, plate and VIN and tire sidewall information and tire tread depth and error or defects that you see on the car, right? And that really kind of goes into the next phase of this, right? If I'm now able to scan the tire tread, I can also tell you if the alignment is fine, right? Next question is, recently a discussion with a British customer of ours is, okay, some tires are pretty old, so even if the tread depth is still okay, you can see these small kind of damages on the tire. So I also want to detect this kind of patterns to tell my customer, even if the tread looks fine, this tire is clearly too old and you have to do something, right? And then you say, it's not just, and I think, one thing that we should mention, I'm sure, you talk about this a lot, EVs changes the game also a lot. Number one is because there is no service for an electric motor. So your engagement are the tires. And number two is because EVs are so heavy, it has a really, really big impact on how you manage tire and how you do this, right? And again, if you think about it, right, everything, and I think this is this term that I like a lot that I learned a couple of years ago when we entered the automotive industry. It's called the walk of death, right? So in the past, you had to go from one side of the shop to the other to get a device that most of the times is either not there, doesn't work, or doesn't have power, right? And we all run around with this thing whenever we leave the house or whenever we go from A to B, right? And if you can do this, right, and in the tread case, we are below 0.5 millimeters on accuracy measuring the tread, right? So we're really close to a laser technology, right? And that's what you have now in your pocket. And that also changes the game, right? And it also, again, goes back to what customers expect today and also what they can do, right? Because both sides win. I, as a customer, don't have to, stay or be there for an hour and have a discussion with somebody to get new tires. On the other hand, it also reduces and makes the process to get the customer to sign up for an appointment, to get them informed ahead of time or have them scan their information, which really changes the game. Because when I walk into the shop now, they know it's Christian, that's his car, that's his tires, we have these things to do, have a coffee, in 10 minutes you're out of the door, right? So it really changes the game. And again, there are so many things that are coming and we have requests really more or less on a daily basis with that. Can we do this? Can we detect damages on the tire, outside, on the tread? Where the knots, I think the knots is the word, right, where you kind of fix the tire. So all these different things have patterns that I can detect, and that helps me to optimize my process. And last thing I want to say is because we have a lot of customers using us in the fleet world, right? So that's also a thing where that the most expenses you have if you run a fleet is gas and tires. And the funny thing is, maybe one thing that's really interesting. So we have two use cases that we see a lot. Number one is 27% of all customers, there was a study in the UK, have, when they replace your tire, they were out of the legal requirements, right? So they were long. It's crazy, right? I think 47%, we did a study a couple of years ago, 47% of Americans say they know that they have had old tires on the car, but didn't do anything, And so that's the one piece where that safety is important, and you need to know when it's time to replace your thing. The other thing that's very funny is when you have a managed fleet, the manager normally makes some money with replacing the tires early. So funny thing is we have two use cases where that on one case, people do it too late, right? Which is a real safety issue. On the other hand, is some are doing it too early, and that goes back to the fleet. If my second biggest costs are tires, I want to find the perfect time at the right time where I'm still legal, it's still safe, but I want to do it at the right time and not too early, right? So it's very interesting how these conditions change based on who is the customer, what's the use case.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that for fleets, to your point, that is huge. Taking that expense and finding that exact opportune time where it's not getting unsafe, but I'm not doing it too early where I'm wasting some of that time that I could still be using that tire safely. I think is a really great point. Now, when you're putting on something of the magnitude of the T.I.R.E Summit for the first time. I can't imagine what kind of planning and just everything that goes into something like this is. And I don't need you to get into all of that necessarily, but I'm really interested to know, are there any sort of maybe unexpected difficulties on your side that you didn't expect to run into that crop up when you're planning something like this?
Yeah. No, it's clearly it's absolutely challenging, especially because it's the first one. And I think what also adds to this is the international setup that we have, right? People coming from all over the world, right? Sure. So that's also one of the challenges. But I have to say, I mean, even if it's a lot of work, and I give everybody who did this a lot of credit, and I really mean that, it was not challenging to become part of this whole endeavor and also get our partners, our customers, people we work with on a day-to-day basis to join us, because I think, as I said in the beginning, everybody is desperate to have an answer to their specific question, right? And we went through different scenarios and use cases and players in this industry, and everybody has a different challenge, right? But everybody is still tasked and have to figure out, what does that mean for me? How can I use new technologies? And how can I partner and engage with others who can help me to make my life of my workers, my life of my team, and my life, especially for the life of our customers, a little bit better, right? And that's what we really see. So a lot of work, challenging to get everybody on board and to get everything set up. But great that really people are excited to be there and want to participate and want to share their knowledge and discuss what's on their agenda, what keeps them up at night.
Sure. No, I can imagine, for sure. So as you mentioned, this is an international show. Everybody's not going to be able to make it out to Vienna for the show. So if that is the case, if that's me, but I'm still interested, is there any way that I can still participate or see any part of the show from home?
Yeah. So we had a long debate about this, or discussion about this. How can we do it? So we will not live stream. Sorry. Reason is because we have a lot of breakout sessions, and that makes it a little bit harder, right? Because you have separate teams talking about separate groups talking about different topics. But we will share a lot of this information on our social media channels. So follow us at Anyline and follow the summit, and we will share a lot of information. One thing that I also want to mention, because as you know, I'm in the US, even if I'm originally from Austria and I live here for 12 years. Goal is also to have a similar thing in the near future in the US, because many of our customers are here, right? And this is also a huge industry, as I said, right? We talked about fleets and service companies and end users, right? So it's also the plan to do the same thing in the US. That said, Vienna is really beautiful in June. So everybody who have not been in Vienna, it's not just the summit, it's also a great place to be for a weekend.
Fantastic. Well, I know a lot of people are going to be interested if it comes to the U.S. So just speaking personally, I hope to see it come to the U.S. That would be fantastic. But I also know it will be a wonderful time in Vienna. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today. This was really insightful on my end, and I'm really, really wishing you the best of luck during the show.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate that you had us on. And yeah, everybody who is out there and have not been in Vienna and is interested in tires, see you in Vienna.
Fantastic. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
All right, so we can talk about advanced technologies coming to the tire industry all day, and I feel like the Tire Summit is going to be a great place to do that. I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.